Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Tea with Tina. If you are just tuning in, we are in the middle of a series right now. I took a brief break last week because I was launching my Fit for Fall 6-week challenge. At the time of this recording, the link may or may not still be open if you want to hop in because we just started today. This week, so just saying, the link might be in the comments below. But anyways, this is a mini series and it's about wellness across the life stages. So we're kind of breaking apart each life stage, child, teen, adulthood, elder, and beyond, kind of aging gracefully. Those are going to be the 4 episodes. In today's episode, we are exploring adulthood. So most of you listening are probably adults. If you're over the age of 18, you are an adult. We're going to explore the importance of things like self-care, stress management, why we kind of lose health and fitness as we age, and what we need to be focusing on. And just a couple little housekeeping things, audio-wise. If you are watching on YouTube, you notice that I have a boom mic set up. I was really playing around. It took me longer than I wanted to, probably at least like 20-30 minutes to fidget with this guy. So I apologize if the audio sounds weird, but the reason I did this was because I noticed when I was holding the microphone, if the cord would tap against something when I was recording, you would hear that in the audio, which was weird because I wouldn't necessarily hear that in the feedback, but when I was playing it in my car, like on Spotify or iTunes or something like that, I would hear it. So that was strange. So I apologize if you've ever heard that. I'm attempting to remove that, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit of echo, and I think it's just because the room I'm in. You know, a lot of people podcast record in their closets. That would not be very aesthetic for us, though, right? We have the neon skull in the background. We have the beautiful plants. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're really missing out. I did curl my hair today, also, for those of you looking. I used a really good conditioner I get from my salon. It needed it, and I just curled it. But it's kind of like a gloomy, rainy day out, so it's gonna get frizzy inevitably. But you know, I curled it just for you guys, okay? But we're gonna dive right into the episode. Okay, so wellness across the life stages, we are talking about adulthood. Okay, so yes, adulthood. Pretty much we're just thrown out into the big wide world at some point. I'm gonna say somewhere between the age of 13 and 18, depending on how your parents raise you. And we're no longer cradled by our loved ones. I was always really upset when I feel like a lot of parents are always like, no, shield the children. You have to be exposed to like perfect and happiness and everything's wonderful and done for you and it's perfect. And then you like reach this certain point, and that's why I said 13 to 18, because I feel like sometimes when we hit a teenager, this happens. And then sometimes when we're actually an adult and have to go to college and get jobs and things like that, it hits us. But it's like, it's just like, that's it. Like, there's no help. There's no gradual going out into the world. It's like we literally get pushed out of the nest. It's like, okay, you gotta fly. It is good in a way, but at the same time, it can be a really big shock to a lot of people. And I think I always like to say it's kind of the make or break for people. If you were really babied as a kid, you could have that Catholic schoolgirl gone wild kind of idea where you're like, oh my God, I haven't been exposed to all these fun things like drinking and partying and drugs, and I just got to try it all. That's one route. The other route is you could just be scared and curl up in a ball and not know what to do and have decision fatigue, which is what we see with kids like going to college. They don't know if they want to go to college. The dynamic is also shifting, so the things I'm talking about are going to be taken with a grain of salt. I feel like, especially for our generation, the people that are, teens now and, people that are in their 20s and 30s, we don't necessarily have that like white picket fence American dream where it's like, okay, you graduate high school, you go to college, you graduate college, you get married, you buy a house, and then you have kids. That is kind of shifting, but the core values are the same. So I'm going to kind of generalize it with the fact of getting settled. Being settled is, I think, the key for why people lose their health and fitness, okay? So just kind of building upon some things, a couple of factors that I feel like are at play in our health and fitness journeys as adults is number one, you're on your own. So it's a big shift, right? When we're a teen or a kid, I mean, we have some sort of help, and probably even into our young adult years, depending on your parents. I mean, I had parents that helped me, like I had everything that I needed, but I felt like from a very young age, it was kind of like, if you wanted to do this, you have to do it yourself. Like I got my first job officially when I was 15, but I was making money like detailing cars at my dad's business when I was like 12, 13 years old. I'd go in with him on weekends. You know, I bought my car cash. I had to save up for it, my first car. College I paid for myself. I had to do all the legwork myself. So I guess it depends on how you're raised. But some people are a little bit more coddled, some people aren't as coddled. But that can have a big impact, I think, on you transitioning into the real world, especially in the fitness world. Think about, like, did your mom maybe coordinate, or your dad or your caregiver coordinate your sports? You know, did they sign you up for sports and kind of force you to do sports so you were active, or tell you to go outside and play? Were they cooking you really good home cooked meals? And they may not have been perfect, but the fact that like you didn't have to cook, that's a big deal, okay? You don't know how much laundry or even just everyday tasks that they were doing for you that maybe you didn't realize was a big deal when you're older. I remember my mom when I was younger was always just like, I don't know what to make for dinner this week. I am just so tired of doing the same thing. And I feel that. I kind of have a routine now, especially as a health and fitness coach. I feel like it's my, whatever I said there, health and fitness coach. It is my job to kind of be a mentor and someone to look up to to my clients. So I try to keep things going and keep things interesting. So I have a routine down, but I definitely do have my time periods where I'm like, I feel like we just ate that. Even if it was like 6 months ago, it's like you have to think of what to eat like every day for the rest of your life. And it's like, if you're not going through the drive-through, it's gonna be home cooked. And I try to do it in bulk. So like I only really cook like 2 to 3 times a week usually. And then we have like one day we go out to eat, because I love making things in bulk that reheat well. Like that's my, oh yeah, we love that. But it gets exhausting and it gets really repetitive. So especially if that's not your main thing, it's like we're not like 50s housewives anymore, where our sole job is to be a homemaker and our sole job is to make meals from scratch, keep the house clean, keep up with the kids, or whatever it may be. It's like now we have like full-time jobs and we somehow have to fit in doing this stuff. If you ask me, I think that if we did like part-time jobs and side hustles, which is why I think this is getting a little bit more popular, when you do that or do work from home, some sort of like mixture of things to fit your schedule, it allows us and opens up the availability to be more of that, like do more home cooking, do more cleaning. I know for me, once I made the jump of being pretty much full-time online, and I do some in-person training on the side as well in like group classes, but it's like definitely not 40 hours a week. I would say I have about 10 to 20 hours of in-person client stuff a week. That opens up so much time, and I am deep cleaning my house. It is always clean. The laundry is always done. The dinners are being home cooked. I'm home cooking and prepping breakfast for the week. And hats off to you who work like 40+ hour a week jobs, go into college, have kids, and you're still doing this. It's possible. It's definitely possible, but you know, I've been working for years to get to this point because this is the life that I wanted to do. So I'm very happy about it. We're still learning though, still growing, and rant. It all had a purpose though, because we were chatting kind of about how, you know, health and fitness can affect your everyday life, and why adults it's just so hard for us, because we don't have parents helping us. We don't live in a household. It's like you're literally on your own, and if nobody else does it, it's not getting done unless you're rich and you're like outsourcing a chef or a meal prepping service, which by the way, those home chef things, I just don't think they're worth it. Like is it Home Chef? I don't know. they pretty much just send you the meals like uncooked, and then they give you a recipe card. Like, I don't see the point in spending money for that. Like, unless you like are annoyed with the fact that you have to like prep, like chop up your veggies, it's stupid. Like, you could literally just buy all the things in the grocery store. And the only thing that I would say would be worth investing would probably be a meal prep service, as in like the meals are done for you, and cooked and ready to go, and almost like a TV dinner, if you will, but it's fresher. That's just my thoughts. So yeah. But anyways, we'll move on. After high school, okay, here's the conundrum that I see a lot of adults in. After high school, you either go to college or you start working, right? This is kind of that like settling thing that I was talking about. Then you typically get into some sort of relationship. You might get married, you might have children, you might have fur babies, you might homestead, you know, whatever you're doing. And you get your house and you settle. You settle to some extent, even if you're single, even if you're a bachelor. I feel like we kind of get into these routines, these grinds, and we settle. We relax, we let off the gas. Because if you think about it, I mean, look, when we were in school, it was like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way up to 12th grade. Each year was something new. We were constantly building upon what we learned. It was very structured, very organized, always doing assignments, learning things, even into college, you know, depending if you go to college or not. It's a little bit more relaxed, which is why we kind of like the loud car, the loud truck. but even in college, it's organized, but you are kind of responsible of getting the stuff done and like creating your own schedule. So you get a little bit more freedom, which is why we kind of have those like late night studying, eating mac and cheese, freshman 15. You know, you may or may not be in sports if you were in sports in high school, and maybe you continued into college. Lots more partying, lots more drinking, picking up bad habits, not implementing good habits, because you're just trying to get your work done and party. Then when we kind of get into that settling aspect, like I said, we ease off the brakes, we might go to comfort, we have a lot more stress, we're not necessarily equipped with the tools to handle that stress properly, right? And it just is kind of this like cycle, especially if you have kids. You know, for the mom, you had kids, you have to deal with the baby weight and the recovery of pushing out a child. If you have multiple, for both parents, you know, you have to be up all hours of the day and night to tend to your child. You know, you're kind of putting yourself on the back burner for your kids, which I do agree in some instances, but I do think you also should never pour from an empty cup. So you should always kind of focus on the basics for yourself and try to take care of yourself whatever way you can. But there's a lot of reasons. People get in relationships and they get comfortable. They go out to eat all the time. Have you ever seen that? Like, couples get together and then they put on weight together just because they're like comfy, and they go out to eat and they relax on the couch. So there's a lot of factors at play, a lot of opportunities, no matter what kind of path you take in life, to get lazy and get caught up in the, you know, grind of everyday life, and really just put health and fitness routines on the back burner, right? So that's really the main reason it happens. It's not because we get older. Everybody assumes that we get older. And I actually did a podcast episode on this. I'm going to link it below, of, you know, they did a study and they said, really, once you hit about 65, your metabolism slows down a little bit, but it's not this drastic shift that everybody thinks. And it's like, everybody thinks once you hit 30, it's like your life changes and you gain all this weight, and really it's just your bad habits kind of catching up with you. You may not be as active as what you were, and you know, you continue the drinking, you continuing the partying, but you're not doing the sports, or you're not doing the movement anymore, and you just go to work and you come home and you sit on the couch and you binge watch Netflix, right? So that is really the key to grasp here. And it might make you a little angry, it might make you a little frustrated, and you're like, oh my God, why me? You're wrong. Listen, at the bare bones, I don't care if you know, were diagnosed with something like me. I have Hashimoto's. I just got diagnosed with it this year, where I have an underactive thyroid, so it is easier for me to gain weight. You know, you might be going through something like that. You're going through a rough patch. Wherever you are in life, you're postpartum, whatever, you gotta stick to the basics. At the very least, I don't care what pills you take, I don't care what supplements you take, at the bare bones, I want you to stick to the basics. Because even if you do all that additional stuff that helps, creating a solid foundation with, drinking enough water, getting enough movement, regular movement, and eating nutritious foods to fill in nutrient gaps in your diet, stress management, setting boundaries, having healthy relationships. These are going to create such a strong foundation so that when you do pursue those things, because those things aren't bad, like medication and, if you do want to add in supplements or whatever, but it's going to be a lot more optimized because you're putting it into an optimized machine. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, but you're going to put it into an optimized machine, okay? It's kind of like if you were to throw some sort of performance tool in like an old rusted car that you like never changed the oil in, so now everything's all gunked up and then the motor's gonna give out, right? Because you never take care of it and it's dirty and there's dust and everything and things start to go bad because you're not taking care of it. But if you try to put performance into a car that's the same age, but you took care of it, you fine-tuned it, you rotated the tires, you would always change the oil, do everything that it needed to be done that other people don't do, your car is going to last a lot longer, and you're going to have a chance that it's going to last a lot longer. Some cars do break down out of the blue, but you're going to have a chance that it's going to run better, it's going to last longer, it's going to be in the shop less because you're doing the preventative maintenance. And just like cars, that's what we got to do with our bodies. And you see it every day with cars. And I use cars because my dad's a mechanic, so I see it a lot more. And with my husband, he's always preventative maintenance. He even has a little logbook where he's like changed brakes, rotated tires, and he usually does stuff before it needs it. A little bit before, like if it's like, oh, you need to do this every 5,000 miles and it still looks okay, he still does it because he's like, it's probably, it needs it anyway. So I'm just going to do it. And I think we need to start doing that with our health. Right? You might not think, oh, well, I don't have any issues yet. I can keep drinking. I don't need to work out yet. I don't have diabetes. I don't have high blood pressure. Do it now, because eventually when you hit your 40s, your 50s, sometimes your 30s, sometimes your 20s, you will run into issues. So why not do the preventative maintenance now so you can live that longer, fulfilled life? I could do a whole rant on this, guys. Okay. But yeah, so I'm going to kind of go over, now that I kind of gave you the thought process behind why I feel like adults do have a lower quality of health compared to like adolescents and younger people. It kind of catches up with us, right? I want to give you some skills that adults can learn in relation to their health. So the 3 big ones that I want to give you that I can break down is time management, self-regulation and discovery, which I did a whole podcast episode on this because I think it's super important, and appropriate basic workout and nutrition knowledge. Okay, each one's super important, so let's break them down. First one is time management. Okay, so going back to like, we're busy people, I would probably argue more so the American culture. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but from America, it seems like we are like trying to shove everything into our schedule and do everything, and we're all burned out and working like 80 plus hours a week is a good pat on the back. And if you're not burned out, you're not doing it right, kind of thing. But we often fill up our schedules with crazy things, right? And in turn, because we're so overbooked and busy, we have poor time management. We are just so tired that we get decision fatigue. We don't feel like doing anything because the seconds that we do get to ourselves, we just are like so exhausted. All we want to do is plop on the couch. All we want to do is reach for the comfort food, and all these bad habits pop up, right? So when you're that busy though, this is the thing, you do have to take the time and truly plan your schedule to succeed. You need to prep meals. Like I tell people this, like the shift nurses, if you're working like a crazy shift job, you gotta plan. I don't care if you can't prep full meals, bring protein shakes with you. I knew girls that like when they were like, okay, we never really got breaks. So when I was in the bathroom peeing, like I would literally drink a protein shake or eat a protein bar. It's like, what's the alternative? Getting the hospital food, getting pizza. I'd rather you kind of do that, work with what you have. Other people with crazy jobs, you might need to use some frozen meals, but pick the healthier options, or ready to go shredded rotisserie chicken, or bagged rice that you can heat up in the microwave. There's ways around it. So you gotta prep, and you got to have that skill to plan out and go, okay, so like I know pizza's going to be here. Instead, I'm going to eat this meal that I prepped. Okay, so like you have to do it. When you take that little bit of time in the beginning, it pays off in the long run, right? You got to build that skill just like anything else. It's hard in the beginning. It sucks. You might mess up a little bit, but just keep at it and you will learn more. Okay. Then you also got to schedule and prioritize your workouts and movements. So you want to schedule it like a doctor's appointment. That's what I tell people. You know, put it in your calendar, write it in your planner, whatever you do, whether you're digital or paper and pen. Physically go through the week on your Sunday, whatever your Sunday is, the start of the week, and go, okay, so Monday, I have a little time gap. I prefer working out on my lunch break. Or maybe you want to work out after work. So you're going to pack all your clothes and bring a little snack because you know you're going to be hungry because, you know, you ate at noon and it's now like 5 o'clock. Okay, and you're going to go right to the gym. So log it in there. Do 5 p.m. gym workout. I'm doing legs. You know, Wednesday, I get off work early, so I'm actually gonna go for a walk, and the weather looks nice outside, so I'm gonna go for like an hour walk. I'm gonna see how long I can, like the distance I can go for the hour. Okay, good, doing that. So really block it out, plan it out, set goals for yourself, and you're gonna be a lot more successful. If you write it in there and you plan it out, there's no excuses. There's no, oh, I didn't have time, or this happened. Like, no, treat it like an appointment. You gotta go to it. And then pretty much if you just have it floating around in your head, you are very unlikely to do it. And I've had those times. I know when that happens. Sometimes I get caught up in the routine and I just don't schedule it, and then it doesn't get done because it gets pushed back, right? And you're just not motivated to do it, and it never gets done. Okay? So get in that habit. Keep checking in on yourself. You got this. Next thing is self-regulation and self-discovery. So again, I did a whole podcast episode on this because I think it's so important. I think we're really lacking this as a society. Again, it goes back to we're so busy, we're so overbooked that we don't take the time to think about us, like what's happening in us, because our body does give us feedback. And if you're not really attuned to it, you won't notice it. And I've actually noticed this in the hormonal space with birth control, with me having so many weird side effects and going through the motions. I think there's also not a lot of research in that realm with birth control, because I think there's not a lot of it reported, because I don't think a lot of people are that in tune with their bodies. When people gain weight or people are tired all of a sudden, or they have low sex drive, they automatically think it's just like they're just tired or stressed out. When in reality, in this instance, it could be the birth control, and they just didn't put 2 and 2 together because they're not in tune with their bodies, right? But in my instance, like I noticed, like, hey, I'm doing everything else exactly the same, I'm doing everything right, and it's still happening. That's kind of rare. Like, you don't have a lot of people that are doing that. So I can see where that's an issue. And I think that's a thing in everyday life. Like, we always attribute like, oh, you're just tired, you're just stressed. That's why you're feeling this way. But could it be you're dehydrated? Something as simple as that. You can feel super hungry, you can feel super tired, you could have headaches. So many side effects to simply just not having enough water, right? So you got to be in tune. Or, you know, the types of foods we're eating. I see this a lot. You know, we have very carby, fatty foods that like digest really fast. And then we're like, I don't know why I'm snacking. I just can't, I have uncontrollable cravings. And then I look back and I'm like, well, you ate this meal and it's super high calorie and has a ton of carbs. But like, I know when you eat this, you're gonna be hungry like an hour later. So let's add some protein, let's add some veggies, let's add some fiber to it to spice it up so you stay fuller longer. And wouldn't you know it, the snacking goes away, right? So there's little things like that that people aren't necessarily in tune with or aware of. And, you know, I encourage you to just start being more aware of your body. Notice how you feel after maybe you drink a glass of wine. Did you get better sleep? Did you sleep worse? How did you feel after your workout? Did you feel more energized? Were you sore somewhere new after eating certain foods? Just start to be aware of how you feel when you do certain things, because it's invaluable information. It's going to help you fine tune your schedule to perfectly fit you. Okay. And then the last thing, and definitely probably one of the most important, is basic workout and nutrition knowledge. This is pretty much my main goal in my job and my career, is to just give people basic workout and nutrition knowledge. It sounds stupid, but oddly enough, there isn't quality workout nutrition information for the average Joe out there. You know, I've always found this gap because I never really wanted to be something crazy. I've never wanted to, like, all these fitness professionals are like, well, I gotta be a bikini competitor to be recognized. You know, I gotta get super shredded and be super extreme, or I need to do CrossFit, or I need to be a power lifter, or I need to be a trail runner and I need to run 50 miles. Like, I just wanted to work out for joy, and I don't see anything wrong with working out for your health, better blood work, being healthy, and it not being insane, right? Like, why can't we just do everyday things and have tactics and tools for the average person? Because a lot of these things that you see for working out and nutrition, these people are often people who don't have kids, who may not be in relationships. They've dedicated their whole life to this sport, whatever they're doing. They say no to social events. They're usually pretty miserable because it's for a short period of time, even if it's like a year, especially like competitors. They're eating very strict. They're doing it for the sport. They're not doing it for their health. Right? That's the important difference. So we look at these people and we go, oh my God, they're so shredded and they're smiling and they look beautiful and put together. And we go, well, if I eat and train like them, I'll look like them and I'm gonna be beautiful, happy, and put together. It's like, no, that's not how it works. They're actually miserable. I've talked time and time again to so many competitors, so many athletes. And like I said, it is more, I want you to look at it as more of a sport. Right? When you were in sports, you weren't necessarily doing it for health, right? You did it because you loved the sport, you got competitive, you may have had to do a regimen based off your coach, but it wasn't like for your life, right? It was for the sport. So that's the main difference with the type of education I try to give people around working out and nutrition is I'm trying to relate it to your everyday life. You know, we're trying to fit workouts into your life and trying to fit your eating habits in because we know that you eat dinner with your family. We know that your family's not going to like the chicken, broccoli, and rice. You know, they're not going to eat like a bikini competitor, but we can still make shifts in the right direction. So you get the better blood work, you have better doctor's visits, you have more energy to chase your kids around, you feel more confident in your clothes, in the bathing suit when summertime comes around. But you still get to enjoy the ice cream. You still get to enjoy the margarita. You still have the family meals and you can enjoy it and you're not stressed out, right? That is what the goal is. And I think there's not enough of that education around and it needs to be ingrained into us more, okay? And the crazy thing is I can never find this exact statistic. I read it one time. I think it was in my precision nutrition textbook and I cannot find it ever again. That's like 1,000-page plus book and I've looked and I cannot find it. But most adults in the US, I don't know what the exact stat was, but I know it was somewhere between like 80 to 90%, don't follow the basic guidelines. And there was like 5 of them, but I know it was something like eating 3 to 5 servings of fruits and veggies a day, getting 30 minutes of movement, drinking 72 ounces of water. I think it was like getting 25 grams of fiber, and not having any like nutrient deficiencies. Like, that's insane to me that most of the population can't hit those basic things, which is why I think we need to go back to the basics and stop with the flashy stuff, stop with the take this pill, do this, like just get back to the basics, like brushing your teeth. That would be like how crazy would that sound? Which it kind of is out there already, but like, it'd be like with brushing your teeth, you just taking a breath mint instead of brushing your teeth because you're like, oh, well, it makes my mouth feel minty and fresh and I'm just gonna use that instead of brushing my teeth. That's literally what happens in the health and fitness world with working out. There's like, oh, just use this sweat wrap. Just take this green tea pill. It's a fat burner. Just drink this drink. You'll lose weight. And it's like, no. You're missing the point. So it sounds crazy, right? We need to get away with that. But just some kind of closing thoughts. I also think the problem that we see, especially in the social media space and advertisement space, is we see these super buff, intense people like The Rock, for instance. He's really popular in the fitness space. And it's inspiring to see him and other people like working really hard to be fit, But what we don't realize is that they get there through the boring basics, but they don't show you that because it doesn't sell. You know, they're not going to show you doing the basic stuff. Like The Rock's out there drinking his water. He's eating whole nutrient dense foods. Now he may be using performance enhancing drugs and whatever, but these people use the basics to get their physique, right? But once they reach that certain level of fitness and they're pretty skilled, that's when they can essentially play around. So once you hit a general level of fitness and you can maintain it, that's when they're like, oh, well, I'm going to try muscle ups now, or I'm going to, you know, do gymnastics or do the crazy stuff because they have the base. You, the average person, is trying to jump to that by surpassing the boring basics, right? But you can get there once you can maintain the basics, right? Because that's like the next level up. And that's the behind the scenes. They're sticking to the fundamentals. They wouldn't have the bodies that they have unless they did the basics. There is drugs and surgery probably at play for some of these people, but that's another story for another time, another podcast. But I can go on and on. I really could, on what adults need, because that's like the main people that I work with. But I want to say that these are some solid basics. I hope you learned something. If anything, focus on the basics, break it down to the bare bones, start there, build a strong foundation, be aware of your body and the messages it sends you, and you'll be well on your way. All right. If you have any particular questions, feel free to reach out and message me. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you haven't caught the other 2 episodes in this mini series, I'll link them down below. They're child and teen. Great if you have kids of your own or you interact with people of those life stages in your everyday life, which most of us do. So it's cool to kind of learn about that. And then the next episode is going to be about elders and aging gracefully. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, I will chat soon. Have a great rest of your week. Bye for now.